All right, so I think we're going to get started. We're 5 past. Thank you so much for attending today. I'm Isabella. I'm the project manager of the Caring Force. So we're very happy to have you here today to attend our frequently asked questions ahead of the State House rally. Our State House rally is next week, so you get excited for that. All right, so just to go for a brief overview, and just in case you're new to the Caring Force, the Caring Force is a grassroots advocacy initiative of the Providers Council. It empowers supporters of the human services sector, like yourselves, to drive meaningful change at the state government level. So our mission is to protect a stronger Massachusetts, one that protects our most vulnerable neighbors while ensuring human service workers receive the pay, recognition, and respect that they deserve. So why are we here today? Because you're all going to be attending the State House rally next week, next Thursday, 1 week from today. I can't believe it came up so quickly, and I'm sure you're thinking the same thing. So just to go over our agenda for today, we're going to do a program overview, and then we'll go through logistics of the day. Then we'll explain a little bit on how to meet with your legislators that day, offer some resources, and then get into your questions and answers. If you have a question during the webinar, please feel free to submit it in the Q&A box, and I will review all questions at the end. So why are we rallying? It's important to have strength in numbers. We have 600 people RSVP for the rally. We're excited to show up and fill the entire State House with our advocacy. You are the expert in these stories through your organizations, or if you're a person served or a family member. The legislators want to hear from you. They want to hear your story. That's what sticks with them the most when they're listening to you, and not, facts that I might be telling them about why it's important to change the human services sector. What matters is the experiences that you have to share with them, so they can really learn and understand and internalize why it's important to pass our legislative agenda, which I'll go over as well a little bit later. And finally, it's a community building. You get to meet people from all over the Commonwealth that are also in human services and other organizations, make new connections and colleagues, and maybe learn a thing or two. So that's why why we're rallying. It's so important for our voice to be heard. So to start with the logistics, the address of the Massachusetts State House is 24 Beacon Street in Boston, right next to the Boston Common, close to downtown. There are 2 entrances, and this particular information is going to be sent out after the webinar as well, with the recording. So feel free, if you don't quite catch all the information, you can look at the slides later. The entrances will be on General Hooker on Beacon Street or Ashburton on Bowdoin Street. Ashburton is the accessible entrance. Please keep in mind that there is a metal detector through security. So especially if you're bringing people with you, please tell them to take the change out of their pockets, make sure they aren't carrying much that day. We have water, we'll have breakfast, so it's really important that you bring yourselves and not much else. The program location, it's going to be in the Great Hall, and which is also the Hall of Flags, which is on the 2nd floor. And this year as well, we're extending into the grand staircase. So we're going to have people fill the Great Hall first, and then the staircase will get filled after that. What's the attire? Your gold Caring Force t-shirt. Hopefully everyone by now has ordered those t-shirts. If not, please contact me and I can give you some assistance with that. But it's really important that we show up in a sea of gold to really make a mark on the legislators who see us that day. So the brief schedule of the day is arrive by 10 a.m., registration and networking. Will happen in the Great Hall. You can have a light breakfast, some coffee. The speaking program will begin at 10:30. And then at 11:15, everyone will disperse to go to visit their legislators. And that's when you're sharing your personal story. That's when you get to make those connections one-on-one, and really explain to them why you're there at the State House next Thursday, and why it's important for them to support the agenda. So before 10 a.m., you'll sign in, collect your materials. So we'll have, as you can see, this legislative leave behind letter. And we'll also have our budget priorities for you to look at and reference. We'll have light breakfast and water. The leave behind letter will be really important for you to fill out once you arrive. 2 copies, so you can leave one with your representative and one with your senator. Um, and feel free also if you would like to pick representatives based on your work location or your home location or just the general areas where your agency works. All of those are okay. It's really up to you. The more support, the more widespread support that we get and the more people we talk to, the better. The speaking program will begin at 10:30. So we'll start off with the Providers Council President and CEO, Bill Jelinek, as well as some remarks from our Caring Force Committee Chair, Stephanie Steed, who is the CEO at 18 Degrees. Then we'll have a set of Caring Force members who are going to share their human services story. So this year we have 2 people who work in programs and also some who are persons served. Then we'll receive some remarks from Senate President Karen Spilka. She has long been a supporter of the Caring Force, and we gave her a Caring Bear Award a few years ago. She always tries to make it and has been a huge supporter of the sector, I think coming through human services first before she entered politics. And then this year we'll be getting 2 Caring Bear Awards to Lindsay Sabadosa and Senator Liz Miranda. Then after that, like I mentioned, you're going to go off to your legislative office visit. Before the rally, there's still time to invite your legislator to the rally so they can show up and see the speaking portion as well. I'll give you a second to look at these links. It would be, you can just type in tinyurl.com/inviteyourledge. And then you can go in groups, about 6 to 8 people. You might have more people in your agency that are attending the rally that day, which is totally fine. We just recommend going in groups of 6 to 8 just to not overwhelm all the legislators at once. But of course, if it happens, if there's congregation for certain legislators, it'll be okay. And then you can also find your legislator using this link, but on the next slide, I have a QR code for you as well that you can scan and then type in an address and it'll show you which representatives and senators are representing you. You can like I said, feel free to use your program or home address. And then the most important thing is to leave that letter that we're going to be giving to you behind with your legislators so they can, 1, add you to any contact information lists that they may have and keep you updated on the work they're doing for the human services sector. And it also reminds them to support the bill in the future because it won't be over when we leave the State House. We'll still need to push them after this. So it's important to leave behind materials. So I'll give you a second, just a minute to scan this code if you would like to look up your legislators. And please feel free to share this link around your agencies with the people who are attending the rally that day with you. This is a resource provided by the Massachusetts government website, so it's totally safe to use. Give you about 30 more seconds on that. All right, move forward. The slides will be sent out after, so in case you missed it. So when you're meeting with legislators, here are a few tips. First, introduce yourself. Tell them who you are, where you're from, why you're attending today, and, like it's important to share your story. How did you come to be involved with human services? How did you come to be involved with the Caring Force? What motivated you to go to the rally? Ask to speak to their legislator or staff about our legislative priorities and give them the leave behind document. The legislative priorities, again, will be available for you that day, so don't feel like you have to memorize a lot of facts ahead of time, but we are going to go through some in just a second. And also, very importantly, make sure to thank the legislators and their staff, which is just as good of a meeting, for their time. They're very busy people, but they do work for us, so we're grateful for their time, but we also need to make sure that they are doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. So these are our priorities this year. The first is to raise the Chapter 257 reserve, which is line items 1599 to 6903 to 307 million in the FY26 budget. This was presented by Governor Healy earlier in the year. It has already passed the House at what the proposed amount was, which is 207 million, and it now goes to Senate Ways and Means. So you can still push your senators to raise that amount in the budget for human services. The second is to pass an act relative to a livable wage for human service workers. That's going to be the two bill numbers of Senate and the House are there listed for you. This has been sent to the Joint Committee on Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities with the same as our second act, which is relative to a loan repayment program for human service workers. So these two are our bills, and we'll go over some facts as well. So just briefly, how does a bill become a law? There are a lot of steps. It goes back and forth to a lot of different people across the State House. So right now we're on step 7. We've passed the House Ways and Means Committee and the floor debate of that. And so now the committee in the Senate is looking over the budget. It'll go to floor debate next. So this is a really critical time, especially for senators, but for all representatives as well. This is a brief timeline of how the bill goes through the State House. So as I mentioned, we're on the Senate portion right here. So to give the problem and some talking points, the livable wage bill, the low wages of the sector cause recruitment and retention issues. So that's the biggest thing to emphasize to your legislators. Wait lines for services, program closures, forced overtime, and a lower quality of life I'm sure are things that many of you are familiar with or you know of experiences that you can speak to when you're speaking to the legislators. Again, this is the problem, but the facts that you want to be sharing are the ones that you know the best, which are your personal story. Please feel free to share as little or as much as you'd like, but what matters is really showing and conceptualizing how a lack of a livable wage is affecting your life or the lives of people that you know. So the solution would be to pass this bill. And that one, what the bill would do is it would close the disparity that exists between salaries of human services workers employed by community-based human service providers, like most of you, and the state employees holding similar job titles for similar work. Second, the problem of the loan repayment, the lack of affordable higher education for human services workers, and the burden of student debt greatly contributes to the sector's recruitment and retention difficulties as well. Something else I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So the solution to this would be passing this bill and making it into a law. And what it would do is help organizations recruit and retain workers by having the state repay qualified education loans. So depending on your level of education and what degrees you have completed, you'd be able to receive funding as listed here below. Last year, there was a one-time ARPA funding for student loan repayment that did get approved by the legislator. So this one is different in the sense that it's asking for a sustainable fund to continuously do this because the demand was extremely high last year and a very small percentage of people who applied were able to receive those repayment funds. So some tips for a successful rally. Like I said, make sure that you leave behind the resources and a note, even if they're not there, even if a staff's not there, make sure you leave something behind. Take photos with the legislator and staff and post them on social media, or you can also take photos of your group and tag your legislators as well. They're pretty active on social media. That's how they try and reach a lot of their constituents. So it's important that you call attention to them in as many ways as you possibly can. And we would also love for you to send any follow-up questions or send thank you emails or cards to them based on the progress they're making with these bills. So for social media, just some tips. Here's an example. You can post on all of our accounts where we have accounts are Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So please feel free. Actually, we encourage you to tag us as well so that we can share your posts as well. We can tag legislators. We can help you out with that. Send a picture of your group wearing your yellow t-shirts and make sure you use our hashtag as well. And it can be through the organization accounts, but it can also be on your personal account. So please feel free. And I'll give you another second here to scan this QR code so that you can make sure that you're following the Caring Force on all of our accounts. This leads to our link tree that has a lot of different resources from the Caring Force available to you. I update it pretty frequently, so you can always come back to this link to see what are the latest updates and resources. But we also have all of our socials linked on that, so please feel free to look at that, and please follow us. We always love the follow. So now for the most important part. What are your questions?